Hi everyone, I'm Kunal Sankhe. Today we're going to see how we can plot a simple square wave in Python. So let's take an example here. So we have a square wave. So on x-axis we have time, on y-axis we have amplitude, and the amplitude of this square wave is 1. And let's plot some numbers here on time axis. So here we have a square wave of duration 3 seconds, and the period of this square wave is 1 second. Okay. Now, if we want to plot this square wave in, let's say, in a computer, then we're going to use a discretized sample. Okay. Now let's assume that we sample this square wave with certain sampling rate, and just for the sake of simplicity, let's assume that we sample with sampling rate of 10 samples per second. Okay. So what does that mean is we're going to have 10 samples in 1 second. Okay, something like this, and so on. Now we're going to program to plot a square wave, but not the continuous square wave, rather a discretized samples of the square wave. Okay, so let's see how we can do this. So first, I'm going to import some libraries. NumPy is just to do some manipulation, and Matplot is to plot samples. Now let's define this samples of the square wave. So here A is the signal, and let's say we have 5 samples of 1, 5 samples of 0. So overall this is 1 second, and we have 10 samples in 1 second, and we're going to repeat this for 3 times. Okay, so just for the sake of sanity, let's plot the length of A here, and you're going to see we have 30 samples here. Let's define some parameters here. So let's say Fs is a sampling rate. Okay, so sampling rate is number of samples per second. Okay, now let's define another parameter. Let's say T duration is the duration of the signal, and here we have 3-second duration. So this is duration of the signal. Now let's try to define a time axis here. So we can use that. So we can use NumPy linspace library, and which has 3 parameters: start, stop, and number of parameters. Okay, so here the starting point is 0, stopping point is t duration, and the number of points in that duration is simply fs into t duration. Okay, so let's try to print the values of the t, and we can see the values range from 0 to 3, and total length of the sample is should be 30. Okay, so we have 30 samples here. Now let's plot this square wave. So we're going to use plot function. In the plot function, we first define the time axis, then we define the y-axis. So on x-axis we have time, y-axis we have amplitude, and let's use some marker here. Okay, and then let's use a show function, and voila, we have a square wave. Okay, so here we can see we have 5 samples of 1, 5 samples of 0. So this is one period of the square wave, and this is repeated 3 times. Now this is one simple example of how we can plot a square wave where we had a samples of the square wave. Okay, and by using the parameters such as sampling rate and total duration, we got the time axis, and we used the plot function to simply plot those samples. Okay, So this is the entire uh, video. Thank you so much.